Hello, movie friends. Welcome back to the show. This is Anthony.
And this is James, and this is Halloween week, so we decided to dress up in costume for this episode on a Tim Burton spotlight, and we're really excited. We've been saving this one for a while. Heavily requested. I am wearing a Sweeney Todd costume, makeup, and everything, and Anthony's Beetlejuice, and he looks fantastic.
It's showtime.
So if you guys are watching on YouTube or check us out on Instagram, his costume looks pretty phenomenal. My wig is kind of whack.
You look great, man.
It looks like an afro.
No, you're just being self-conscious.
Who made this Sweeney Todd wig?
Hey,
it's like a helmet.
It's $20. It was good. It's a good deal for $20.
It's getting returned for $20 on Amazon.
It's gonna be a free purchase, so it's fine.
But anyways, it's a lot of fun. We love dressing up, and
I feel really. This is the first time I've ever put makeup on my face.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never done it before.
But our fans have been requesting us to dress up ever since I dressed up as Hermione.
Still the best, the most iconic outfit you've ever worn on
Hermione
the show.
with the beard.
A half beard. You weren't quite there. But anyways, Tim Burton is such an iconic director. He's got this amazing, unique blend of his own art form, his own style. He's very artistic. He's got this like gothic fantasy horror that he always walks a tightrope on between being terrifying but also not being scary at all, just like weird. And he's an auteur for sure. And he's just such an exciting filmmaker. I think especially in the late 80s and 90s, he dominated the box office. Probably the most popular filmmaker at the time.
Yeah, because he had the Batman movies, then he had Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, and that's an unbelievable string of 4 films to come out. It was Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands, then Batman Returns, and that's just wild. And this is before superheroes were all over the place, and what people gravitate towards him is, like you said, he has this unique vision, and nobody makes movies like Tim Burton does. Not a single filmmaker working today does what he does, and I think that's why audiences love him, because he's something different. There are a lot of fans of the gothic. There are a lot of fans of like horror. Those kinds of people really love his work because they see something in his work that they love.
If I had to make a comp between him and another director, I would say the closest thing to him is Wes Anderson. But obviously, Tim Burton was first, and they're completely different styles. But in terms of this unique tone and style and creating your own atmosphere, I would say that Wes is maybe the closest thing to Tim Burton, but obviously the very quirky, whimsical version, not the horror whimsical.
Yeah, absolutely, because they both have very specific visions, and they're auteurs in their own right. When you watch one of their movies, it's one of their movies. Especially, they both have the same. Mostly collaborate with the same composers, especially. So right now, Alexandre Desplat is making all of Wes Anderson's films, and then famously, Danny Elfman has done all of Tim Burton's movies. So the music and the visuals combined, you really can see just from 30 seconds. So, this is a Tim Burton movie. Same thing with Wes.
Yeah, but in addition to creating their own worlds, they both are probably the most well-known directors that still do stop-motion films.
Yeah,
and so Tim Burton, you could argue, reignited that genre and type of storytelling back in, the 90s his first shorts that he was directing, those were those were for stop motion, but he really reignited with he didn't direct The Night Before Christmas, but it's like all his storyline and characters, and so that, and then Corpse Bride.
Yeah, but Peewee had a lot of stop motion in it.
And I mean, film. Beetlejuice has a ton of it as well.
It has a fantastic amount of stop motion and his feature live action films. So before there was even A Nightmare Before Christmas, he was using a great amount of stop motion in his films because this is pre-CGI. And this is how, stop motion was essentially, you could say, the CGI of film history. King Kong is a great example of, it was all stop motion, but it looks like it's a real thing, especially if you're watching it in the context of that era. So stop motion was a valuable resource for filmmakers. And then nowadays, it can't compare to CGI. Spielberg famously originally planned to do his dinosaurs as stop motion, but then Lucasfilm's company, they were like, hey, Industrial Light and Magic, they were like, hey, check out this mock-up we did of a T-Rex. And then he saw that and he's like, okay, I can't do stop motion because this blows it out of the water. So it has a ceiling nowadays.
But there's something to it that it's still appealing to audiences, where Wes Anderson, he does fantastic Mr. Fox, and he also does Isle of Dogs, and they're both very popular and well-known films, and 2 of his best for sure. But before we continue, the best way to support Raiders of the Lost podcast is to share us with your family and friends, and to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost podcast, especially because James just put his 2 weeks in at work. Patrons get 2 perks like personalized videos, podcast schedules. Top-tier patrons get a monthly shout-out on the podcast, and the best perk of all is every single patron, no matter if you're in the $2, $5, or $10 tier has access to weekly bonus episodes of the show, which post every Wednesday. We just did Werewolves. It was awesome. Head on over to our new website, RaidersOfTheLostPodcast.com, to see all of our sources of content, our custom merchandise, as well as our shirts, our t-shirts, our hoodies, our hats. We have some winter hats coming out, and movie posters. And follow, subscribe wherever you're listening and watching. Hit the notification bell, and thanks so much for tuning in. Let's get back.
Before this, you spoke so quickly. There's something that you mentioned for a second.
For a brief moment, I put my 2 weeks in at work.
James quit his job today.
Well, it's not officially done, so I got 2 weeks left.
Yes.
Well, I mean, this will have aired, and we'll have 1 week left.
1 week left. So you have 7 days left of work, and technically on this moment of filming, you have 2 weeks left of work because the podcast has been doing well, and we've been getting so much support from our fans. So everyone, shoot Jim a message. Say congratulations on social media.
It's all because
of
Patreon. Everyone's killing it on Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon has really helped us support ourselves. So everyone, congratulate James.
Oh, shucks.
Say hi to him. Say we love you.
My makeup's you're gonna see me blushing through it. It's a good thing I have makeup on.
But you deserve it because you work very hard on this show.
Thanks, pal. I appreciate it. You work hard too. Anyways, let's get back to Tim Burton. So
you're such a professional.
Well, they're not here, and they don't want to hear us talk about me and my job.
They love you.
They want to hear us talk about Timmy Burton. So Tim Burton. He's such a great eccentric filmmaker, but of course his filmography, he's got I think 18 or 19 feature-length films that he's directed, and not everyone is obviously a hit. He's got some duds in there for sure, and I wouldn't even put him in dud category. They're just either misunderstood, not successful, and they weren't quite the quality of films that he was putting out in the 90s.
Mars Attacks is an example.
Yeah, what the
Mars
hell?
Attacks we loved it when we were kids, but it doesn't really, when you compare it to something like Sleepy Hollow, it's it's definitely in the lower tier of his filmography.
Yeah, but I mean, I think in the 21st century, his last great film you could probably argue is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber on Fleet Street, and that was 2007, because since then he did Alice in Wonderland, which even though made $1.2 billion, not very well critically received or by fans. Dark Shadows was kind of not really taken by people.
It was straight comedy and it didn't work. Is what it was.
It was maybe a little too dry. Frankenweenie wasn't bad. Big Eyes wasn't terrible. Miss Peregrine's Home of Peculiar Children wasn't super popular. Dumbo, I think a lot of people thought was a bit of a miss. But he does have a couple projects in the works right now. So he's filming a show called Wednesday for Netflix. So this will follow Wednesday Addams. And then was announced he's going to be doing Beetlejuice 2. So hopefully he can turn things around. Not that he's failing as a director. He made a movie that made $1.2 billion in 2010. But, I think what he was doing in the 90s and late 80s was just way more his vision and way more critically received. Much better.
You could say that heavy use of CGI could have something to do with that, because it's definitely, for sure, the first half of his filmography is definitely better than the second half.
Yeah, but that started around Charlie Chocolate Factory in 2005.
Yeah, but still, his movies are still great, and they're still Tim Burton movies. They're still it's that unique vision. And what's so great about him is that he started out as an artist, and he grew up as an animator, wanting to be an animator, and he was always drawing and creating as a kid. And he actually was originally an animator for Disney, and he went to school with the original Pixar crew.
We talked about this in the Pixar episode.
He was part of that crew that founded Pixar. He didn't found Pixar, but he was hanging out with those people. They were going classes together. So that was a great friend group of a bunch of brilliant minds that changed cinema forever. And he had the opportunity to continue animating, but he wasn't happy as an animator. He was being restricted, and his incredible ideas and concepts and things that he wanted to do weren't really being accepted by Disney. And so he left and started doing his own thing, and eventually he was able to get Pee-wee's Big Adventure made.
Yeah, so he was working at Disney, but a little backstory. So he was born in 1958 to his parents in Burbank, California.
Oh, it was Valley Kid.
Yeah, his father, he worked for the recreation department, and his mother owned a cat-themed gift shop. So I'm sure we can guess where
she did.
Where he got the eccentricness and the weird interests from, probably his mother's side. But so he started animating and drawing when he was young, because he was a bit of a recluse and very secluded himself, basically didn't really fit in. His father was also a baseball player, tried to pass that on to him, but he really can't find any interest in it, and he was kind of a loner. And that's where he dove into old horror films and monster movies from the 40s and 50s, which we just talked about a few episodes ago on the Patreon bonus episodes when we talked about the different eras of horror. And he also began drawing, but like most people, when they begin drawing, they have a traditional education with it, and they draw traditional things, you're learning the techniques, but then he just kind of threw that out the window and went his own route with his art, and that's where he developed this incredibly unique style that no one else draws like him, or even though people kind of copy him nowadays, but it's his own vision, it's his own art, his own creativity. And his entire career, every one of his movies, he does all the concept art for his characters, and pretty much what you see in his notebooks and his drawings, that's what the end product is, not just in the stop motion, but in terms of even the physical characters, like Johnny Depp and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And obviously Jack Skellington, he had been drawing for years before he figured out the story. So all of his drawings of his concept art leads to the final transformations of the characters in the films.
Yeah, and he definitely invented like that gothic style of animation. You know what I mean? Because
maybe not invented it, but he made it popular.
No, but his style in particular, because the thing with all the stop motion films, and even Nightmare, even though he didn't direct it, but like you said, he did the pre-production and the concept art, is, you know, the characters they look like they've been designed by the same person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you get, and there are people even make like mock-ups of like, well, what a Tim Burton character will look like for a particular person, or, you know what I mean? And it's his style of artwork that has really transcended, you know, design itself, and it's become its own thing, and people will like duplicate their own artwork by, you know, using him as inspiration. And I think he has become extremely influential for young artists for sure over the last 30 years. I mean, he could be one of the most influential just artists for people.
Yeah, and he's possibly the most recognizable filmmaker of all time. When you like say you put on a random movie for somebody who knows film, I think Tim Burton's the one where you could recognize immediately, oh, this is a Tim Burton film.
Oh,
you know?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Same thing
He's
with Wes
there.
Anderson to an extent. Obviously, Scorsese has his own tone, and everyone has their own style. But Tim Burton specifically, you put something on, and you're like, this is a Tim Burton
Look
film.
at how pale they are. It's definitely Tim Burton.
Yeah. Johnny Depp again. But that's what I mean. He's an auteur, so his style, his creative voice really supersedes any story that he's working on.
And, you know, he has this amazing blend, like you said, of horror, fantastical, strange stuff. And you know, there is some horror, but his movies aren't super scary. I would say that Beetlejuice is the scariest movie. Sleepy Hollow is pretty scary too. But more than anything, it's their style and their tone, and, you know, the weirdness. And he always blends that, you know, dark comedy to it. And I think that's why he and Johnny Depp work so well together, because Johnny is really great with comedy. I mean, you watch Edward Scissorhands, and I crack up watching that movie. He's so funny in Edward Scissorhands, and obviously we see him as Jack Sparrow being a comedic genius. But I think that Johnny really taps into the comedic elements that Tim Burton wants to get in his performers to keep the movie from being straight up horror films.
Yeah, and Tim Burton, he has a ton of trademarks like most great directors do. You know, I think one of my favorite parts of Tim Burton films are his opening sequences, and they're always so interesting and unique, and it always has something to do with the story, obviously. Sometimes even the plot points from the movie are in there. And like, for example, the Batman, while the camera just like is going through this maze of the bat symbol. It's super cool. Sweeney Todd, it's the meat pies and everything. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's of the Chocolate Factory. The bassinet in Batman Returns, the spaceships in Mars Attacks, even the Apes weapons for Planet of the Apes. So I love his opening sequences, and it does a great job setting up the tone for his films, especially when you combine that with Danny Elfman's music, which obviously helps create his artistic vision even more.
Yeah, and Danny Elfman, I mean, his career was made off of Tim Burton movies. He's a genius composer, and just like Tim Burton, he has his own unique style, and you can recognize a Danny Elfman score even when it's not Tim Burton. Like Spider-Man, you can tell it's Tim Burton. I mean, Danny Elfman for sure. And I think I think he's the only composer that can really capture what Tim Burton has in his mind for what he wants for his music, and that's why they've worked together so often. I think that there's something about, you know, the instruments he likes to use, the choir work he likes to use, the brass, the way he likes to write strings. I think that Tim Burton would never want to use another composer if he had a choice.
Yeah, I think a great example of how important his music is to his films is the opening sequences of Edward Scissorhands, which I think that it opens with like some mechanical stuff, like because he gets made by that man, but then it's just a bunch of shots of suburbia, these like helicopter shots of just these big suburbs. And with like any normal music, it would just seem like a normal movie, but it's a daylight suburb, but Danny Elfman's music is blasting, and it's like his crazy, quirky, eccentric music, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a weird movie, even though it's a completely normal cinematography for the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And the art design of Tim Burton movies are just genius. And I mean, Edward Scissorhands, for example, like just like you said, those suburban neighborhoods, what's really great is all the neighbors and all their houses extremely colorful, reds, greens, yellows, blues all over the place. But then Edward Scissorhands, he has the same colors you're wearing right now, whites, blacks, grays. And, I think that there's something about Tim Burton likes to have his characters, his lead characters, have this pale quality to them, have the dark hair. I think that he looks at it as, going back to gothic horror films from the 40s and 50s, trying to capture that look of the black and white film.
Like Frankenstein,
exactly.
Stuff like that.
And so I think that that's the main reason why he likes his characters to be so pale and why they always have very dark hair. I think he's trying to call back to the films he grew up loving.
Well, you could easily say that currently Tim Burton might be like the only mainstream filmmaker that's keeping that German Expressionism alive from the 20s and 30s. I'm talking about like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, Nosferatu, all these, especially in films like Beetlejuice, where all these warped hallways and doorways and tunnels and interesting shadows and trees, but even his design of trees in all of his films, that they all sort of have that tone of that great aesthetic that those German Expressionist films had, especially if you watch Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. All you film majors listening right now, if you ever have to write an analysis comparing an old film to a new film, do Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Beetlejuice, and you'd be shocked how similar they are in terms of style. In Nosferatu, obviously, with Dracula 1992, that would be a great one as well. But I just think that he's helping keep that style alive, and it's all over his films, and it's even in Batman. Gotham City looks like it's out of Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It looks like it.
It didn't feel like it was out of the comics. It felt like Tim Burton's vision. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Capturing that old style, and there's something to that, and we can't deny. Tim Burton is definitely one of the most successful directors of all time.
Yeah, his movies have grossed over $4 billion at the box office.
That's a ton. So audiences always gravitate to his films. He has diehard fans, and like we said, he's a recognizable name. His films are recognizable by mainstream audiences, but I think that it's something to be said that to have such a unique filmmaking style, to have billions of dollars worth of profits is really, really incredible and impressive. And, he never really... He makes what he wants to make. He never, does something for the studio. He never compromises. He still sticks to his guns, and the last two movies he made still look like Tim Burton movies and feel like Tim Burton movies. So there's something to be said about how he's been able to control his career, unlike most directors are.
I like how he is aware of his talents and where they work best. He's never been credited for a full screenplay before. And he usually just develops the story and the characters, and he always has screenwriters fix everything else up and work on the dialogue. I think it's very clever to always play to your strengths, and I think he knows that his strengths work best visually as a director, storyteller, animator.
Yeah, David Fincher isn't credited for any.
And so John August is his frequent screenwriter collaborator. He's done half of his films or something like that. So I think it's smart for him to focus mostly on the visuals, the story, and the characters versus worrying about all the dialogue, because there's only so much he can do.
Yeah, and they must have a great working relationship, and I'm sure his writer must be a diamond in the rough if they keep working together to know his tendencies. It's like a great director and their editor are always in a close relationship, and directors like to use the same editors for their films to help them in the process because they have a great working relationship.
He's got a ton of other trademarks I'd love to talk about as well.
Oh, let's hear them.
So one of them is Anthropourfism, which is when you give lifelike characteristics to
like a tree
or something like that.
Inanimated objects.
Yeah, inanimate objects. Yeah, inanimate objects. Obviously, Danny Elfman with the music. He also has a few others, including a plot that always focuses around a misunderstood outcast, which is pretty much half of his films. Anytime Johnny Depp's in one of them, for sure.
And Wes Anderson.
He also features dead dogs or dismembered dogs. I think 4 of his movies have a dead dog or a ghost of a dog, a zombie dog. Obviously, Frankenweenie, the whole movie revolves around one. But I think that relates to when he was a child and he lost his family dog, which was very, very tough for him. But he still probably seems to be trying to express that pain in film. Many of his films feature townspeople who misunderstand or distrust the lead character, Edward Scissorhands specifically. He often has scarecrows in his films. Fathers are always portrayed in a negative light in his movies because I don't think he got along with his father very well. And obviously most of his films either tend to be dark or very colorful. It's seldom a blend of the both. There are a few movies in his filmography that are just kind of just straight up movies versus having an extreme Tim Burton aesthetic. So the one with Amy Adams, big eyes, that might be the most non-Tim Burton Tim Burton
definitely.
film. He definitely put the reins out. There are like some of his whimsical, fantastical elements to that, but not really intensely. And then maybe Big Fish, but there are some fantastical elements to that as well. But those two are probably the least Tim Burton-y movies. And then you could probably say like something like The Corpse Bride, which is the stop motion film that he directed. That one might be the most Tim Burton aesthetic and visual outlet he's ever made.
And I would say Beetlejuice too.
Probably, yeah.
Beetlejuice for sure, and Sleepy Hollow. Hold on. So, which of his 18 movies is your favorite?
My favorite? It's so hard to pick. I was actually thinking about that today.
I was so surprised because I knew he made a lot of movies, but I forgot that it was 18 films. Like, he has made almost a movie every 2 years for his entire career. That's a lot of output.
Yeah, so if I had to pick one that's my favorite that he's directed, it'd probably be Edward Scissorhands. But he has so many underrated films as well. I mean, obviously Batman, but even Ed Wood is actually a really good film. And Sleepy Hollow I like a lot. That's one of my favorite horror films, especially to watch around Halloween. Beetlejuice is fantastic. But I think I would probably pick Edward Scissorhands.
My favorite is Sleepy Hollow. I just really love that movie. I love the period piece. Obviously, you know me in period pieces.
Oh, yeah, we know. Everyone in the neighborhood knows how much you love period pieces, Anthony.
And Johnny Depp's great. I just really love the story. It's that classic story you grew up knowing as a kid, and you know the whole film itself, I think, is really perfectly made, and it's just a really great, fun horror film with a lot of comedy to it. I think that's my favorite Tim Burton.
The thing with Sleepy Hollow is it's a great example of how when his films bomb, like for example, right before that he made Mars Attacks, was not very successful, super weird, not really received very well. But then he made Sleepy Hollow afterwards, and that was a huge hit. So like he always makes up for, like, you could say, his lost profits or maybe what the studio would like to make from his films.
Yeah, that's definitely right. But it's an amazing filmography. His first 10 movies are just wild.
I mean, his first 5 are insane because so he does Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, and then after that, it's like, here's a blank check anytime you want to make a movie from Warner Brothers. Like, anytime, we got you, pal. Like, what do you want to do? A guy with scissors for hands? Sure, you'll probably figure it out.
Batman was such a massive success when it came out because it was the first Warner Brothers comic book movie outside of Superman. And Superman was a big success in the 70s, but the last 2 didn't perform well, and the 4th one was just a bomb, and everyone hated it. That's the one where Superman gets drunk and stuff.
Yeah.
And so Warner Brothers was like, I don't know about these superhero properties. So they took a chance on Tim Burton. He had only made 2 films that were pretty small. I mean, Beetlejuice was successful, but these were 2 still small movies. And what he did with Batman was he really got audiences excited for superheroes again. And obviously it would be a long time until they became a regular thing. But the Batman movies he made were gigantic successes.
Yeah,
huge.
He brought the darkness back to it to kind of erase everyone's memory of Adam West's and his campy comedic take, and that comedic take on Batman from the 1960s. And that's why I love Batman with what Tim Burton did, because we probably wouldn't have the DC universe we would have right now. Maybe a Dark Knight trilogy doesn't get made if he doesn't make this dark version in the 90s, in 89.
You could say if the Batman movies didn't perform well with these gigantic successes, it probably, I mean, superheroes, like you said, could have been a slower time coming. You know what I mean? So that could definitely be possible, because not only did Warner Brothers make a ton off the box office, but they made maybe tenfold more off merchandise. You know, that bat symbol, how many shirts have been sold with that bat symbol? And still, I think most people still prefer that Tim Burton bat symbol.
Yeah, and plus he was going to make the Superman movie in 1997, but that went down the drain. So he started making a ton of animated shorts. This is when he was an animation student, then working at Disney as well. And like Anthony said earlier, he was working on a lot of different Disney projects, but none of his were getting underway. They didn't really like what he was doing. It was too dark and gothic for the tone of Disney. There were a couple films that he matched with, but they never would give him his own identity as a filmmaker at Disney, and that's why they left. Ironically, ended up working with them multiple times after that, especially with Dumbo most recently. But actually, Vincent and Frankenweenie were shorts that he made. Frankenweenie was 1984, Vincent 1982, and then Frankenweenie he ended up making into a feature-length film, obviously in the 21st century. When did that come out? 2012. So those ideas and the aesthetics of the characters have always been with him, and it's incredible to see him 30 years later, after he invents those characters, to be able to make movies about them.
And what's ironic with Disney especially is Disney produced The Nightmare Before Christmas, but they released it under one of their child companies. They owned a bunch of companies, so one of the companies they owned, they released it under that umbrella, so it didn't have the Disney name on it. And then when it became a gigantic box office success and fans and audiences and families adored that film, then Disney was like, you know what, let's put our name back on this movie so people know it's a Disney movie. So now you'll see it says Disney's The Nightmare Before Christmas. So I think Disney always kind of did him dirty that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Never showing love for his creativity, his unique style of animation. And it's kind of silly that they didn't even want to put their name on the movie he produced and helped create, and then it becomes successul. Then they're like, oh yeah, by the way, guys,
Disney made that.
It's a Disney movie.
Disney made that.
Yeah.
Hey, Disney's gonna Disney.
So that unappreciation.
Something else I love about Tim Burton's films, it's always, it was when I was a kid, I always thought his movies were like kind of horror or scary for me, but really his movies aren't scary when you rewatch them. It's sometimes there are scary moments, obviously, in Beetlejuice and some of the films, but I wouldn't even really always say that he's a straight up horror filmmaker because, yeah, he features monsters a lot and stuff like that, but it's more about the monsters not really being scary and not being like this ferocious killers of men and women. And it's more like the human side of monsters and empathizing with them, which is really interesting.
I think looking back on it, you could say Sleepy Hollow and Mars Attacks are the only movies where you see a lot of people getting killed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sorry.
And Sweeney Todd. But
Did you say Sweeney Todd or no?
No, I did not.
I thought it was one of those times where I wasn't listening because there's some throats that get slit in that, bro.
You were listening so hard that you didn't notice that I didn't say that.
Yeah.
But Sweeney Todd, you're with the character, so it's less scary. But I mean, in Sleepy Hollow, people are getting their heads chopped off and stuff, and it's very scary with the Headless Horseman. But I think when I was a kid, it was Mars Attacks always scared me.
Yeah,
the aliens.
It's freaky, but it's funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Like Mars Attacks, it walks that fine line. But I think because we were so young when we saw it, it freaked us the hell out. But I think second, third viewings, it was funny. And we were like, this is ridiculous. This movie is insane. But anyways, actually, before we get into the filmography, if you're watching on YouTube, I hope you already see our costumes. You'll notice that Anthony and I have these brand new laptops on our desk. These are courtesy of LG, the 17-inch LG Gram ultra lightweight laptops. The cool things about them is the 16:10 aspect ratio, meaning more vertical height versus more of a widescreen look. It's great for editing video, watching movies especially. It looks incredible on this beautiful screen. They're also incredibly light. So we're going to go, if you go into our YouTube bio, we'll put links for the LG Gram 16-inch and 17-inch models. Thank you so much, LG, for sponsoring the show for the rest of the year and for these amazing laptops. We love them so much. Our buddies Manscaped, they're not very gothic, and Tim Burton probably doesn't use this stuff, but I'm telling you, you should get on this immediately because some of the best products you can have for men's grooming, specifically their Lawnmower 4.0. Use our coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. There are a bunch of awesome new products coming to the Manscaped line in the next month. We're really excited to share it with you. Got to keep our lips sealed for now, but it's going to be some cool stuff that they're just basically broadening their extending their line and offering more products that men will use that so that we don't have to get stuff from like Burt's and Bees and all these other manufacturers. That's like one place to get everything you need for your entire body. So they got some exciting stuff coming. So everyone listen, if you need to get a gift for a man in your life, or just guys, if you're checking this out, if you got to get on Manscaped. It's some of the best products in terms of grooming. Their boxer briefs, super comfortable. We love their performance package 4.0s. They send them to us like every 2 months, and it's full of men's wipes, deodorizers, boxer briefs. T-shirts are super comfortable. So there's currently over 2 million men using Manscaped products worldwide. Use our coupon code. These are amazing gifts for guys because this is stuff we actually use. Coupon code Raiders of the Lost at checkout for 20% off your entire order and free shipping.
It's a great deal.
All right, let's get back into Tim Burton, and let's start going through his filmography chronologically. So between 1971 and 1984, that's when he made a ton of these animated shorts, some of them stop motion, some of them animation and illustrations. You should check them all out. I think you can find pretty much all of them on YouTube. And it's cool because when he brought up the Pixar dudes from that class, they all work together on each other's projects, and some of them voice characters for each other. So I think what's the guy who directed Incredibles, I think.
Andrew Stanton.
Or someone else. One of them, not him, someone else. They voiced some of the characters of Tim Burton's short films.
I think it might be a different director.
But in 1985, he got his first feature film made, and that was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And when I was a kid, I thought this movie was so weird, and I didn't really know what to think of it as a kid because it seemed like it was for kids, but also for like quirky, weird adults and gothic stuff. And it was fun, but at the same time, I was also scared of it.
Yeah, our brothers loved this movie.
Yeah, Jamie
and
liked it a
They
lot.
were watching it a ton, and then we would see it here and there, and it always kind of freaked me out as a kid because we were watching it when we were really young.
Like that truck driver lady
Yeah,
always
she
freaked me
terrified
out.
me. I was so scared of her.
But then I saw it recently as an adult. I'm like, this isn't scary at all.
Yeah, but to a 5-year-old, it's terrifying. So I think we were kind of emotionally scarred by this movie, so I didn't watch it until I became an adult again.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like a horror movie or scary in the first act when he's got his red bike and everything, and then he gets stolen. But some of the characters, I think for young kids, it was intimidating for me.
Yeah, did you know that Judd Apatow helped make this movie? He
really?
He was a producer on it.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's a random Judd Apatow fact for today.
But yeah, it's a really great first film, and what's his name? Paul Rubin, who created Peewee, he tapped Tim Burton to direct it after he'd seen some of his shorts, especially Vincent and Frankenweenie.
Yeah, and it's just a eclectic blend of these genres and these tones that Tim Burton, you can say, only pulls off, with the weird, with the macabre. There's some great stop motion elements, like the body horror in this, and, the music is amazing. And, Tim Burton's great at creating iconic characters that you can dress up for as Halloween, and Pee-wee's definitely one with the gray suit and the red bow tie.
I don't think anyone wants to dress up like him anymore, though.
Yeah, probably not.
He had some pretty bad allegations a few years ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
right?
They definitely won't make another one.
Oh, no, but he still does that character and everything.
Yeah, but I mean, it's iconic with the bicycle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy movie, and
is.
It's a great first film. It's a great job of setting the stage for who he was.
I mean, he showcased the hell out of his talents for sure, and it was successful. It made $40 million, and I don't even think the budget was $15 million at all. I think it was below that. I think it was single-digit millions budget, but it was pretty damn successful.
But you will see that it doesn't have that. It doesn't quite have the Tim Burton signature visual style yet.
Yeah, but so after that, he didn't make a film for 3 years because it wasn't until he was presented with the script for Beetlejuice, which he made in 1988, that and the script wasn't even that wild. It really wasn't really about much, but I think Tim Burton just saw something in it that he could put his genius and his artistic vision into something. He found like a canvas to finally paint as a filmmaker.
Well, I guarantee you, this script started out as kind of like just a dark ghost story type vision without all the craziness. You know what I mean?
Just like a comedy ghost story with like the couple.
But I'm sure that Tim Burton added like all the visual elements have got to be his own creation, because it's not like the screenwriter wrote all of that into the screenplay. Like,
yeah, no way.
Like I guarantee you, the screenwriter didn't write like Beetlejuice has arms rolled up and then they roll out onto the floor and become like hammers,
or arms coming out of dishes while people are eating, like stuff like that.
I highly doubt that happened.
Or even like the musical numbers.
Exactly. And the music in Beetlejuice is definitely something that's different for all the other Tim Burton movies in terms of characters interacting with music that you're hearing.
Yeah.
I think this is the only film that happens in its entire filmography.
Yeah, but as I was saying earlier, this is probably the closest thing to German Expressionism in the modern era of film, and he's still keeping it alive with some of his other films lately. Beetlejuice is probably maybe the most unique character ever put on film. This guy is out of his mind, but there's no one like him. He's so unique and weird, and he's like a monster at sometimes. He seems like a serial killer, but he's like a ghost. Pretends to be like a good guy. He's like a con man sometimes. He's really weird and super entertaining and very funny.
And Michael Keaton brought so much to this role. No one else could have pulled it off. And you can tell, like, this is before he was a big star. He was in Mr. Mom. He was in some TV shows. And, he had some other roles in movies before this. But, Beetlejuice was his big moment, because after this he was in Batman, and he brings, like, he has so much energy. He's so funny in this movie. He just cracks you up the whole time.
He went for it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Like he went 110%. Like, I'm just gonna be as wild and zany and ridiculous as possible.
I think I have a business card around here somewhere. Here, hold on to that for me. It's like my favorite line.
And his voice and the character, he's like disgusting to look at, but he's so funny.
As I'm looking at you as Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty disgusting to look at.
But like, you can't help but take your eyes away from him, and you love him. He's so funny, and he's not even the lead of the movie, but he's the front of the poster. He's the title character, and he's the most memorable part. He's probably the most memorable character that Tim Burton's ever put on film.
Yeah, I think it maybe was a little ahead of its time in terms of people being prepared for what Tim Burton was going to bring in his career, because no one ever seen anything like Beetlejuice before. And obviously, this was a simple ghost story, I'm sure, because the two leads, the husband and wife, played by Gina Davis and
Alec
Alec Baldwin, they get in that car accident. They don't know they're dead yet, and then they're basically ghosts in this house. Winona Ryder's got a great role in it too as the daughter, and she's the only one who can see them. But you can tell it's probably like that was like the main setup, and then maybe there's this ghost character that's communicating with them. But then Tim Burton just made it into a Tim Burton movie.
Yeah, it's wonderful production design, and who I didn't look up the name of his production designer, but you got to give them a lot of props because they add so much to his films. I'm sure he helps conceptualize everything, but his team, his crew really help make the movies, and I'm sure he understands how important they are. And this is, I think, the best production design in his entire career, even better than Batman.
Yeah.
And it's such a low budget, but what he pulled off was amazing, and great camera trickery, like how he is able to film in the same scenes the couple with Beetlejuice when he's in the little tiny model area in the same shots, and really great camera techniques like that. Old school filmmaking like stop motion really brought this film onto a huge level.
So surreal. I think a lot of critics didn't like it because they were the boomers of the generation back then, and
they didn't like different stuff.
The 1988 boomers were not ready for it, but man, it's awesome. I enjoy the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And then in 1989, he went to Gotham and made Batman. This movie is excellent. It still holds up today. I still love it. The music from Danny Elfman is obviously iconic, and I think they even sampled it in Zack Snyder's Justice League for a little bit.
Danny Elfman did the score.
Yeah, but he sampled his old theme.
So you hear Batman's old theme
just for like a couple parts of it. This movie all around is great, and I think the biggest strength to it is all practical effects, and obviously Tim Burton's touch on the atmosphere in Gotham City. I think what I said earlier about them wanting to erase the idea and the people being used to the comic campy version of Batman from the 1960s, they wanted to just get rid of that. And this is the Dark Knight. This is the Caped Crusader. Let's do it for real.
And Michael Keaton was perfect as Bruce Wayne for this movie. And I think the studio definitely wanted a strong action hero type leading man, but Tim Burton fought for Michael Keaton, saying like he's the right guy for the role, and he did an excellent job. And obviously he's so beloved. Everyone is very excited to see Michael Keaton's Batman again in the new Flash movie, and there's that trailer that just came out, and there's a tease of his cowl, and then the tease of his Batmobile about to be uncovered by the tarp.
And he's speaking in it.
Yeah, you hear his voice. People really love this Batman, and like I said, the logo is still probably the most beloved logo, and it's got one of the best Batmobiles. I mean, how many toys did they sell with this Batmobile?
Still selling them.
It's unbelievable. And the design of this film, a lot of these sets are miniatures. Like, Tim Burton didn't have the biggest budget in the world as opposed to superheroes now, but he made it look really big and really extravagant. And I think the action sequences are excellent. Like, when he drives the Batmobile to attack the bad guys in that factory and then blows the factory up, like, what an amazing scene.
And when he drives up a wall.
Yeah, he drives. I think he definitely kills some people in this movie, too.
Oh, for sure.
For people who complain about Zack Snyder's, he definitely bodies some people here.
Plus, Jack Nicholson is the Joker. He, reinvented the Joker into such a maniac. Not that other interpretations weren't similar, but I think Jack just went full crazy Jack on it, and he just kills it in this movie.
And Jack Nicholson apparently only agreed to play the Joker if he was allowed to do the makeup himself. So he decided how the makeup would look, the prosthetics of that always smiling look, and I think he took it very seriously for the role. And you can argue he definitely is one of the best Jokers for sure.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's only been 5 recently in the last 30 years.
Yeah, he's definitely better than Jared Leto, you could say.
He's probably 3
Third.
to me. Well, yeah, 3 to me now, or 2, depending on if you like Joker compared to that. I don't know if you like the dark take on it.
But what I like about this Joker is that the makeup is his face like flesh colored.
Yeah,
and the clown face is his real face. That's what I like about it, where the makeup is reversed. Like, he covers himself with foundation to match like his skin tone in order to cover the clown makeup.
He's also more of a prankster in this movie. When he pranks her with after she throws the water on him, he's like, "Oh my god, my face, it's melting, it's melting, oh my god." And then she's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "Ha ha ha." I love that.
I think he really took a great direction with the Joker.
Yeah, I love it. And also, I love the production design in terms of it heavily being influenced by Metropolis, their film in the 1920s by Fritz Lang, and just I think that aesthetic and that vibe that Tim Burton just has been throwing in a ton of his movies ever since, in addition to German Expressionism, obviously.
And we get that Batman theme. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, so Batman's great. And then in 1990, They were like, all right, here's a blank check. Tim Burton, do whatever you want. You've made us a lot of money. A guy with scissors for hands.
Whatever, man.
Sure, dude. Whatever, bro. Edward Scissorhands, 1990. Tim Burton's best movie, in my opinion. Well, my favorite Tim Burton movie. I think it's his most intimate and personal. And this is Johnny Depp's first, like, very interesting role. And I think it's a great thing that he took this because he was basically a heartthrob at the time. He was kind of like Leo DiCaprio was just a jockey hero.
His TV show.
Yeah, I mean, 21 Jump Street. And so he was just like the it guy. But I think this is probably the kind of project that he'd been waiting to do, looking for, and meeting Tim Burton, I'm sure, enticed him to do it. And this is the start of Johnny Depp's, like, quirky, crazy roles, and I love it.
He's hysterical in this. He's so funny as this innocent, naive character, and most of his lines are like one-word responses, and the way his performance, I think, is just really, really funny, and he captured this role perfectly. And I think this Johnny Depp and Tim Burton is one of the best collaborations we have between a director and actor in history. They've made an amazing body of work together, and what's really cool about Edward Scissorhands is you can kind of look at it as like the creation of AI, like an AI robot.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, kind of. You can even look at Edward as like a representation of Tim Burton himself. Isolates himself. He doesn't fit in with society. And I just love the character of Edward. He has these scissors for hands because he's incomplete. He isn't a finished being. He's brought into his community, and he turns what they deem a disability with his scissor hands into a gift, and he produces amazing art, and he gains the love of the folks temporarily. It's pretty much artificial love. They're only using him for what they can get out of him, whether it be good haircuts or something exciting. But I think it was a great role for Johnny to take. Winona Ryder is fantastic in this because it's the exact opposite of what she had just done in Beetlejuice. Instead of being like a goth, depressed daughter, she's like the exact opposite. She's like a popular kid at school, the blonde hair and everything. So I think that even the jockey boyfriend, that's the kid from
Anthony Michael Hall.
Yeah, he's in what's it
Dark
called?
Knight.
Is he? No, but I mean in the 80s, he's in Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah.
Breakfast Club,
Yep.
and also one of those in 16 Candles.
60 Candles, yeah. He
So,
plays
like, that
the
was-
creepy friend.
Yeah, so that's an exact opposite role. So all the main, like the actors in this movie, they were cast as polar opposites of what they usually do, which I think is cool.
And you could say this is Tim Burton's first fairy tale movie, because of the way it's told in the form of a character telling the story to another character, in terms of Lydia, an elderly Lydia telling the story to her granddaughter about the man with scissor hands, and it has that fantastical fairy tale quality to the filmmaking. There's a lot of narration going on while we see montages of characters, like especially how flashbacks of Edward and his father and in his not a laboratory, but in his home. And it's I think that if you're gonna say comparing him to Wes Anderson, this is like when Wes Anderson started really honing in on his craft, and his movies became very fairy tale like adult fairy tales, very whimsical with amazing stories and fantastical characters. You can say Edward Scissorhands took that approach here as well, where Tim Burton has made his first real classical fairy tale, like the kind of thing that Disney had always done, that he always wanted to do. This could definitely be one of those probably concepts he had that they disapproved of.
Yeah, complete confidence in his style, you could say. And then in 1993, he didn't direct, but he did the concept art, story, characters of A Nightmare Before Christmas. And the cool thing about this film, besides the entire thing, is he'd been drawing Jack Skellington for years. Like he's been drawing his characters forever. And it took, because that's what he likes to do. He draws characters like he drew Edward Scissorhands for years, and then he just kind of figures out the story based off the characters he draws.
And it was a poem, right?
Yeah, I think he turned it into a poem, but this took years for him to actually develop the story for Jack Skellington. So he'd been drawing it forever, and then he finally figured it out. And this is easily one of the most beloved holiday films, whether it be watching it on Halloween or watching it on Christmas. It's like the only movie that it's acceptable for both. I watch it on both usually around the same time because I love this movie. Everything about it, it's fantastic. The music is incredible. Danny Elfman's as Jack Skellington singing is just some of the best vocal work I've ever heard in a movie. I didn't even know that guy could sing until I didn't even know it was his voice until a few years ago doing it. He doesn't do the voice of the character, just the singing parts. But overall, it's just such an amazing film. All stop motion. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, we all grew up watching this film, and it's this movie where it's a kind of walks that line between horror, and it's just kind enough for kids to watch. Like when we were kids, it was scary, but it wasn't horribly scary.
The third act gets scary.
Yeah, the Boogie Oogie.
Yeah, Oogie Boogie Man.
He's pretty terrifying, and I definitely had nightmares about him. But otherwise, it's okay for a kids movie to be scary, and it's okay for kids to be scared. They need to learn that life, can be scary sometimes, and you can learn a lesson like that by watching a movie where everything is not sunshine and rainbows. And I think that's why people really love his films and why they gravitated towards Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, we should definitely do a special on that sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Then in 1994, he made Ed Wood, and this might be his most underrated movie. I think it's really good. We got Bill Murray, Johnny Depp, Sarah Jessica Parker in the main roles. This is a biopic based off a real guy, Ed Wood, a director. It's probably the most unique biopic you'll ever see. I love that he shot it in black and white. He shot it basically in the styles of the film from that era. It was the 1950s, I believe. Martin Landau is phenomenal in this movie. He actually won an Oscar playing Bela Lugosi, and makeup won an Oscar too. But this movie overall, it's really, really good. Johnny Depp gives an incredible performance. It's really nuanced, but also very fun and quirky at the same time. And I think it's just very underrated. I like it a lot.
Yeah, Ed Wood was like the Tommy Wiseau of his time, where he managed to scrape together enough funds to keep making these movies that were terrible. Like, everyone considers them like some of the worst movies ever made, like in the century, like from 1900 to 2000. Like,
yeah, terrible scripts, terrible acting, everything.
Yeah, lots of like cheesy sci-fi stuff and sappy romance stuff. And Ed Wood didn't really know what he was doing, and he didn't care. He just kept making the movies, and he was hiring professionals, and the people working with him were like, "What are you doing? Like, this doesn't make any sense." And even though he had all these things against him, like, he still kept making movies, and he had that passion to him. And I think Johnny Depp perfectly captured this naivety to the character, this cluelessness, but also this undying spirit to want to make movies no matter what, and no matter how people feel about them, I'm just going to keep doing it. And I think really it's a special movie about filmmaking.
Yeah, it's a really interesting character, and he was a really interesting person, and there's a ton of like positivity about the trans community in this as well, because he likes to dress up in women's clothes and stuff like that. So I think it's a little bit of ahead of its time in terms of that socially, but overall it's an excellent film. You got to check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's really, really good. In 1995, he came out with Batman Forever, which was a good sequel. It wasn't as good as the first one, but I think having Danny DeVito as Penguin and then also Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman really are the best parts of the movie for me.
The thing with Batman Returns is it is good. It is very good at times, but also it can be a little too campy.
Yeah,
like,
a little
all
much.
The little Penguin stuff, it gets a little too much, and Penguin's direction got a little too campy. But because he started out as like a more nuanced character, and then became just full on like this Penguin-esque like creature. And
it's like black blood.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. But I will say that I think this is the best version of Catwoman. I think Michelle Pfeiffer was excellent, and childhood crush right there. But it's still a fun time. It's still a great sequel. It's not as good as the first one. It's hard to pull off a sequel, but ultimately it is a good time. It's a great Batman movie.
Yeah, another great example where Tim Burton came up with the concept art of Penguin. Looks just like Danny DeVito's end character, and also Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman suit. He came up with the design for the Catwoman suit. So again, even a big film like this, he's doing the concept art pretty much for everything.
But what I do like about this is there's a lot of adult hints in this movie. It can be pretty mature, but it goes over the kids' heads.
Yeah,
especially
it's like a SpongeBob episode.
Yeah, especially with Michelle Pfeiffer's character. There's a lot of sexuality and sexual jokes in it, you could say. But as a kid, I never noticed it.
Well, I noticed her licking his cowl for sure.
Yeah, well, for sure.
All right. And then 1996, he actually produced James and the Giant Peach, which I adored that movie. 1996, he directed Mars Attacks. Now, this one was... It's kind of like, what did he do this on purpose to make it seem be like a weird film? Because it's not that the concept is bad, but just like the overall execution of parts of it, I'm just not in love with. But either way, it's a trip. I mean, it was actually based off Alien Topps trading cards, a set that were featured that actually had to be taken down because they were a little too graphic and parents were complaining. But it looks just like the Aliens. That's the look came from, basically.
I think with this movie, he was trying to make like a sci-fi horror film from the 50s. You know what I mean? Those super cheesy sci-fi creature features.
It's like he was, because he just did Ed Wood, was like trying to make a movie like Ed Wood would make it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very funny at times, and it's very entertaining at times. But ultimately, it's like I don't have any inclination to watch it again.
It's almost on the line where it's like scary movie where it knows what it is, and it's kind of meta in a way, if that makes sense, because it knows it's a bad movie. That's why I think he made it that way.
But we do get Jack Nicholson as the president.
Yeah, he's pretty good at this.
It's awesome.
I mean, Helen Mirren's his first lady in it.
Yeah, and then we get a lady whose head gets put on a little dog.
Yeah.
There's some weird stuff. There's super weird stuff in this movie.
It's a weird movie.
Remember the alien that sneaks into the White House with the disguise
of a woman?
Yeah, and what does she have? Like in her purse, like the lipstick or something.
Something like
that. What is
it?
I can't remember.
Perfume?
Yeah, something like that. But she she pulls out her laser gun. And when people get shot, don't they become ash in this movie? Or
yeah, they have like laser guns that disintegrate people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this movie's crazy.
It's a trip.
The CGI does not hold up anymore. But I mean, back then to us it looked real.
And then oh man, all right. And then in 1997, he didn't make a movie, but for 2 years he was developing Superman Lives, and so this was going to star Nick Cage as Kal-El, who actually is a huge Superman comic book fan, and even has a first edition, I believe, of Action Comics #1 from 1938. And there's a great documentary called The Death of Superman Lives. It goes over this entire story, and the film was going to feature Brainiac, Lex Luthor, and Doomsday as villains. Wesley Strick and Dan Gilroy wrote the screenplays.
Oh, Danny Gilroy is very good.
And the documentary has a ton of great screen test imagery of Nick Cage in the Superman costume. And it would have been cool to see, I'm sure, to watch Tim Burton's aesthetic of Superman. But this just shows you that he was the biggest director in the world because he did Batman, and then they tapped him for Superman, which is crazy.
He was Warner Brothers guy.
Yeah. He was like their Chris Nolan
exactly.
at the time.
Clint Eastwood, Chris Nolan,
and now they lost Chrissy Nolan.
The thing with Warner Brothers is I think that Warner Brothers has the greatest filmography of any studio because they always did what they could for their filmmakers. And, Clint Eastwood, he's been making movies at Warner Brothers for 40 years, and like Chris Nolan for 15, and Tim Burton for much of his career. So they understand how important directors are to constantly collaborate with. So I'm sure, especially with the success of Batman, they're like, we have this other giant property. We think you're the guy to do it. And it's a shame. I mean, this could have been very interesting. This is at the height of Nick Cage. Like, he had just done, what did he just do? Like, Face Off just come out.
Yeah, mid-90s.
Yeah, in The Rock. So he was
huge star.
Gigantic star. So I think it could have
Con Air.
Con Air could have had a ton of potential. And I really like going with Brainiac in Doomsday. Like, let's just go full out with these giant supervillains.
And Superman was going to die in the film and be reanimated.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Would have been awesome.
Yeah, too bad.
We'll never know. But definitely check out that documentary. It's really, really cool.
I think Kevin Smith is in it.
And narrates it. I think he does too, yeah. Haven't seen it in a while. How about we head into our intermission?
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we'll begin.
Is it a spooky intermission?
Some of mine are spooky for sure.
So are mine.
So this is going to begin with our movie quote competition. I have one from a fan, one from me. So this is from Nick Ruiz. Life is a storm, my young friend. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a man is what you do when the storm comes. You must look into that storm and shout, as you did in Rome. Do your worst, for I will do mine. Then the fates you will know, you as we know you.
Gladiator.
No, not even close.
It's not Russell Crowe?
No. Dude, I thought you knew that movie back and front.
I don't know.
I think you just heard my voice and you were like,
yeah, you sounded like Russell Crowe. I'm lost. I don't know.
Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, I just read the book. Oh my god.
It's a direct quote from the book as well.
I just read that.
That was pretty bad, guys.
Oh my god. I have a quote too from a fan.
Hold on, this one's for me.
Okay, let's hear it.
They're here.
Poltergeist.
Correct though. 1982.
It's a good one. All right, here's my quote from Damon Heinzman, one of our great super fans. Isn't it funny? You hear a phone ring and it could be anybody, but a ringing phone has to be answered, doesn't it?
Oh man, that's a good one. What movie is that?
Want me to say it again?
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? You hear a phone ring and it could be anybody, but a ringing phone has to be answered, doesn't it?
Oh man, I'm stumped. That's a great one too. I just feel like it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it?
Phone booth. Kiefer Sutherland.
Dude, that's a good quote.
It's a good one.
It's a good quote. Got me.
Nice one, Damon.
All right. You have one from you, right?
Yeah. If you were waiting for the opportune moment, that was it.
God damn it. God damn it. I look like such an idiot.
If you're waiting for the opportune moment, that was it.
Is that your Michael Caine impression?
Yeah, I don't know why I went Michael Caine.
It sounds just like Michael Caine.
It's not Michael Caine. I'm sorry.
I won't bury another Batman.
I'm Michael Caine.
I don't know. What is it?
It's Jack Sparrow.
Ah. Of course.
Yeah.
All right. Guess this movie release year. In the Mouth of Madness.
In the mouth. 1948.
Worst answer of all time. 1994.
Oh man.
Oh, you loser. I don't have the worst answer anymore.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
How?
You knew I would say that. No, you wanted me to get that title.
I wanted you to get it correct. I always hope that you get answers correct. I just want for the best for you, Anthony. No, John Carpenter movie.
Oh, is it?
John Carpenter movie with Michael Keaton, I believe.
Oh, nice. Here's my movie release year. The Ninth Gate.
I love this movie. Oh man, I better get it right.
That's why I picked it.
Dude, this movie's exceptional. Johnny Depp, Polanski. Is it before 2000? I feel like it's 1997.
99.
Oh man. Awesome movie. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen The Ninth Gate. It's really, really good. All right, movie pop quiz time.
Let's hear it.
What was Wes Craven's first film? He wrote and directed it.
Oh, good question.
I'll give you a hint. It was remade into a horror film again this century.
Can I ask, is it super graphic?
Yeah, sure. Not like the most graphic thing ever. There's some graphic stuff going on for sure.
Oh, man. I don't know. Is it a slasher?
Yeah.
Are there multiple killers in it?
That's a lot of questions you're asking.
Sorry. I'm going to go with The Hills Have Eyes.
No. You want another hint?
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence is in the remake.
Last House on the Left.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
That was a good hint. All right, here's my quiz. Eva Green's debut was in what Bernardo Bertolucci film?
Oh, what's this called?
With Michael Pitt.
Yeah. Oh man, what is it called? It's her, Michael Pitt, and the dark-haired guy.
Yeah, he's got hair
it's like
you.
It's a plural word, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's plural.
What is it? Bathtubs. No, but they have that intimate scene in the bathtub. Oh, what's it called? God damn it! God damn it! I just didn't get any right today.
Getting so worked up.
0 for 4. What is it?
The Dreamers.
The Dreamers. God.
I think you're being a little too hard on yourself.
No, man, I'm not being hard enough.
Everyone has a bad night. It was a tough set. I stumped you. I got you.
Even Damon got me.
Even Damon got you.
All right, let's move on to our hater of the week. Who we got? Actually, I have a hater of the week from YouTube.
Let's hear it.
So this is from Zach Weist. How could you not talk about the Scream TV show? It's obviously better than the movies, and the costume is so much better than the movie's costume. I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to unsubscribe. Sincerely, a former fan.
Former fan.
He's just kidding.
All right, I got a bunch of unsubscribers. Ready? So, Carpio 2017 wrote in one of our TikTok clips, James is looking too smug in this clip. Unsubscribe.
I do sometimes look too smug.
And then Gooch Monster wrote in my...
You gotta filter the names, bro.
It's Gooch. What's Gooch?
I'll tell you afterwards.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that was a bad word.
You're ridiculous.
So I did a clip about Christian Bale having a photographic memory and he said, how are you going to act like this man has photographs inside his mind? Unsubscribed.
Photographs inside his mind.
That's it. That's our unsubscribed haters.
Our biggest supporter of this episode is from Nata. Left a great 5-star review. One of the best film podcasts out there. I've been listening to James and Anthony ever since I watched Tenet. Got lost halfway through the movie and stumbled across Raiders of the Lost podcast explaining the movie. Not only did they perfectly explain the film, but they did it in a way that was both hilarious and welcoming to new film geeks like myself. After that, I've listened to most of their episodes and have recommended it to my friends and family. Wow, thank you
That's so much since last fall.
Give this podcast a chance, and I promise you won't regret it. Keep up the great work, wise guys, and Drug Pin King Lord for life.
Hey.
Let's go. On this day in film, thank you so much for the review, Nata. On this day in film and TV history, October 25th, in 1955, publication of The Return of the King, the third and final volume of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien, is published. 1988, comedian Richard Pryor is awarded the first ever Mark Twain Prize for American humor. What's our streaming recommendation?
Step Brothers is on Netflix.
Oh, yes. Love it.
One of the funniest movies ever made.
Talladega Nights is on Amazon Prime, too.
Yeah, so funny.
All right, let's get back to the episode.
Let's go.
Where did we leave off?
Sleepy Hollow.
All right, let me get my list back up. All right, so Sleepy Hollow came out in 1999. And this is overall, I think, one of the best Halloween films to watch. I think it's incredible. It's spooky, great acting, pretty solid script. Christopher Walken has shaved teeth and he growls with a sword in his hand. So, I mean, it's pretty great. I love the interpretation of Ichabod Crane. He's like this coward. He's hilarious. He's like a cowardly Sherlock Holmes. Super fun. Johnny Depp's awesome in this movie. And the aesthetic, the cinematography, the tone, I love everything about it.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's my favorite Tim Burton movie. I just really love the story, everything that Tim Burton did with the style and the tone. And I think he's really, by this point, really honed in on his craft and he is like a master of what he's doing by this point after making the Batman movies, after making a couple of his other gothic horror films. And I think especially coming off of Mars Attacks, I'm sure he wanted to get back into that gothic horror space, which he loves so much. So I think he put a lot into this film. And I just think Danny Elfman's score, Walken as the Headless Horseman, who doesn't even say a word, but is still an awesome movie villain creature. Excellent ending. And
it's really fun.
It's great
Super
ending.
ironic.
Yeah, and then Johnny Depp is just so much fun as the lead as Ichabod Crane, and he's a perfect lead for Tim Burton movies. And you can see clearly in this film.
Dumbledore's in this too. Dumbledore 2.0 is in this movie as well.
Yeah, Michael Gambon.
Overall, Christina Ricci's exceptional in this movie. I love her filmography because we've talked about her before in terms of being like not a scream queen, but like a horror queen, where she's in a bunch of different genres of horror films.
You could say she's the gothic queen.
Yeah, the
modern
horror
gothic queen.
She's in Casper. She's in this. She's in Addams Family. So she's all over the place when it comes to these fun horror
Matilda.
films. Yeah. So I think I love her filmography, and this movie's awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite to watch around Halloween.
We should watch it on Halloween.
We should, man.
Yeah.
We should just watch it tomorrow. Why not?
Let's go.
Actually, we're going to see The Last Duel.
Yeah.
Tomorrow on the 21st. Anyways, next up we have The Planet of the Apes, which was released in 2001. And so this is his, you could say, remake of the original or just new interpretation of the book. I think it's overall pretty okay. I think the best aspects of the film are the production, stuff like the prosthetic makeup, I think was actually really incredible for the time. It still holds up pretty well. Budget was $100 million and it made $365, so it was super successful. A ton of cons. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of like the alternate dimension aspect to it. The original ending from the first one with the Statue of Liberty at the end, I know they try to like do it with the Lincoln Memorial, but I just don't think the ending makes a ton of sense. But obviously it's like a different dimension, not time travel. But I think Mark Wahlberg wasn't perfectly cast in this movie. I think they just wanted him because he was a star.
Yeah, the ending I did not like at all. When Abraham Lincoln in this universe, it was like a gorilla did the same thing as Abraham Lincoln. It just didn't really make sense. And I know it was striking visually and surprising because audiences weren't going to see that coming. I think they were expecting something to happen, but when he landed back on Earth, to see that like the Lincoln Memorial is actually like an ape, very strange ending. But like you said, the makeup is really excellent, very, very good. And Tim Roth is awesome as the villain.
Yeah.
I think he is phenomenal. He's one of the best. He's one of the most underrated movie villains of all time, you could say, in this film. He just steals every scene he's in. He is terrifying as this character. And I think that, again, I agree, Mark Wahlberg, I think a little too early in his career to lead a big budget movie at this point. But ultimately, I think he got the job done. Tim Burton, he made a very good movie, but it just didn't quite match the original Planet of the Apes. And in terms of the story, I think that this is 40 years after the first Planet of the Apes almost, and audiences after 40 years of cinema were looking for something more nuanced in terms of, approaching the apes, whereas they still went with the apes being the adversaries of the lead. And I think that the modern trilogy, Andy Serkis's trilogy, approaching it through the lens of Caesar and through the perspective of the apes was the right way to tell a story for modern audiences.
But this is also the film where he met Helena Bonham Carter and started their offset relationship and partnership, but also her being a frequent collaborator going forward with Tim Burton, in addition to Johnny Depp in several films. So
she's got the Jennifer Aniston hair in this movie.
Yeah. So the acting's great in this movie. Paul Giamatti's awesome in this movie.
Oh yeah, the orangutan.
Yeah, so the cast's really good, but it's just kind of falls short in the third act for sure. And again, I don't really like the interdimensional stuff. I would prefer if it was just like time travel instead.
Yeah, but I think they did an amazing job with the prosthetics. I think it really looked fantastic. If you love Tim Burton movies, there's no better way to express that love than buying some movie posters of his. And you got to do it at movieposters.com, our amazing sponsor. They have teamed up with us to offer a special promo code, Raiders10, to get 10% off your order today. Now, we used to have a different code. Unfortunately, it was shared too much online on those websites, like those promo code websites people try to steal from. So we had to change our code. So the new code is Raiders10. Again, Raiders10 at movieposters.com. They have high-quality posters. If you're looking at our set, it is decked out with these amazing posters. Don't go to Amazon.com, even though it's free shipping. It is crappy quality. Movieposters.com is number one. They have pretty much every film imaginable, all sorts of sizes, framing, backlighting, whatever your poster needs are, they can handle it. Again, go to movieposters.com and use our promo code Raiders10.
Hopefully Bezos doesn't listen to our show because he'd hear you always crapping on their products.
Yeah, their posters suck.
Let's move on to Big Fish in 2003. This is an example of a minimal Tim Burton-esque style film in terms of the gothic elements. I really like this movie. It's Ewan McGregor, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi, is the lead of this film. It's actually like a really beautiful story about a rekindling relationship between father and son, and the son wants to know who his father really was, and he ends up telling him these incredibly exaggerated stories of his past. I think it's a really emotionally rewarding film by the end, and I really like the aesthetic. It's kind of like a fairy tale.
Yeah, Ewan's great in it, and then Helena Bonham Carter is excellent in it too, as that old woman in that house living by herself. And this movie has excellent cinematography. It's super colorful. By far his most colorful film. You see a lot of sunlight in this movie, which is such a contrast from usually the grim, gothic, cloudy moon. And so it's definitely a different visual experience for Big Fish, and I think it has those great fantastical elements, but it's put into this film in a really nuanced way, not his typical flamboyant, over showy way. And I just think that Big Fish is definitely one of his most underrated films for sure.
Yeah, for sure. 2005, he actually released two films. The first is the biggest one, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And so this is basically a reimagining, you could say, of the original 1971 film. Was that the year it came out, I believe? And novel from before then. Overall, I enjoyed this movie. I would give it a thumbs up. Obviously, the original is better. And with that original being so visually stunning and unique, how does Tim Burton top it? And this was the first film that you could say heavily featured him using CGI a lot. And
there's some in Big Fish, but not this much.
But this one is really him stepping into that and embracing the world of CGI more than ever in his entire career. I think it's funny. I'm not a huge fan, though, of Johnny's performance or the character design. But aside from that, I enjoy the movie.
The interpretation of the character is so much different from the original, and Johnny Depp, he's very funny, but the thing is, he doesn't have that warmth that Willy Wonka had in the original. You know what I mean?
Even though Willy Wonka in the original is very sarcastic and demeaning, sometimes he's still very warm, like you said.
Yeah, he's still very lovable, whereas this Wonka he seems kind of like a sociopath, and and they play it for laughs, and it can be funny, but also it's very awkward at times. And I think that just their interpretation of the Wonka character was a little too off for audiences to really love it and gravitate to it. But it is a funny movie. It's very entertaining. I like the set design. It's very different. And Tim Burton was mixing it up. CGI is pretty good. It doesn't really hold up too much today, but they did a good job with it for 2005. Ultimately, I think that Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I mean, how do you live up to the original? It's one of the best kids movies ever made, so it's tough to top that. But I think they did an okay job, but ultimately, I'm not even sure it needed to get made.
I just realized that Timothée Chalamet is doing 2 Johnny Depp roles because he's doing Wonka Origins, and then he also did Edward Scissorhands in that Super Bowl commercial, which is super
the
fun.
car commercial.
I like that commercial a lot. I think he was perfect as that.
Yeah, Winona Ryder was in it.
Yeah.
She played his mom. He played Edward Scissorhands' son.
Got to get a name drop for Chalamet on here. Dude is killing it. What a life.
You got some Chalamet hair right now.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Without the wig?
No, you have it with the wig.
In real?
Yeah.
Oh, with the wig?
Yeah.
That's the only way
It's
I
got
could.
a little Chalamet to it.
All right, let's move on to also in 2005, he released Corpse Bride, and this was a stop motion film that he directed. Also has a combination of stop motion with some CGI and digital elements, but overall, I think this is a perfect representation of Tim's artistic voice and storytelling, and it's really unique, interesting, and also beautiful story.
Yeah, it's a great animated film for kids, and it reminds me a lot of Beetlejuice. It has a lot of those elements with the husband and wife, and with death. And I think that Tim Burton, what makes his movies so great, especially his kids' films, is he's not afraid to tackle death. Most animated films won't approach that subject, and if they do, it will be like maybe for a bit of the story, but not most of it. But he just goes right in like, these are dead characters. Like, this is death. You know what I mean? So I think that he really tackles kids' storytelling in a unique way.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, people and parents have been telling like scary fairy tales to kids forever, and scary stories because, I think what you mentioned earlier in the podcast is like the world isn't rainbow and butterflies all the time. You have to expose kids to dark elements of life so you can prepare them. And I think stories are the best way to do that. And, modern fairy tales being turned into films, I think is a great example of how to show death to your children and kids in a safe way.
Great. Well said.
Thanks, pal. 2007, he dropped what I said earlier was probably his last great film, Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, 2007. German Expressionism is all over this film. I think it's really brilliant movie. I love the execution with the singing and the cinematography, the set design, wardrobe, just the makeup of the characters as well. It's dark. I love the gritty nature of it and like this dark London vibe and the rodents and insects everywhere. Like when you watch this movie, you just like kind of feel dirty in a way. And it's a brilliant mix of beauty, horror. I enjoy the tones, the desaturated monochromatic tones of the film. I think it needs a little more color though, but I think what he was doing was the blood is the color and like the fire are the color of the film.
Who do you think did better as Sweeney Todd, Johnny Depp or Ed Helms in The Office?
Depends. Can I have a bottle of wine and be Michael Scott and roll it down by accident?
I knew you'd like that.
Love that episode.
I think this is one of Tim Burton's best movies. It's definitely, I think, it is top 5. And Johnny Depp is sensational. Helena Bonham Carter as well. They're both such talented performers and singers. And this movie is gross, it's disgusting.
Really intense gore.
Nasty. But it's a great story. It's such a great idea for a musical. I think it's a lot of fun.
Serial killers are so fascinating.
Yeah, people love serial killers. But people love movies like this. And Tim Burton, I think, obviously gravitated to the story because he could do so much creatively with it. And I just think it's a brilliant character, like this barber who just kills his clients, and then downstairs they get turned into meat pies. It's
pretty
like
gross.
It's insane.
The gore is intense. Like there are some throat slits where he'll show the throat slit and the camera cuts to a different shot, and then he goes back to the throat pouring blood out. It's like, oh my god, like I'm gonna eat before this. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but it's a lot of fun. And I think that the musical numbers are really excellent. Wardrobe is sensational in this, and I think that the entire team and the crew, the actors, did a phenomenal job with this film. I agree, it's his last really great film. He's made some good films since then, but I mean, Sweeney Todd is definitely in his top 5.
In 2010, he had his most successful film with Alice in Wonderland, and he straight up embraced the hell out of CGI in this more than ever in his entire career. You could say the entire movie is just CGI pretty much.
Yeah.
I'm not a massive fan of this film. I think aesthetically it looks really good for the most part, but I also think that it looks a little too much like Lord of the Rings in a lot of moments. Made $1.2 billion, so it was wildly successful. Overall, I think the story is a little flat, especially like towards the third act. I love the visuals again, but I think just it doesn't have like emotional substance to like really connect with an audience.
Yeah, and it seems like it's an impossible story to really pull off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to even tackle it as a storyteller and a filmmaker. And I think that I was surprised when I saw the trailer how much CGI there was because of Tim Burton being Tim Burton. Maybe it just was easier to pull the film off. I don't know. I mean, Helen Bonham Carter, her giant head looked good, but otherwise, all of the sets, all of the fantastical elements in this other world, it was all CGI. And for me, it looks a little too much like a video game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's hard to get into a movie where it is all CGI except for the lead characters. And although this was the breakout role for Mia Wasikowska, who's an excellent actress, and she did a great job as Alice. But, the movie, it has its great moments, but ultimately I think it is kind of an underwhelming adaptation of this fantastical story.
But I mean, like you said, who would even want to try to tackle this movie? But I guess,
and also there are such devoted fans to the story, it's hard to please everyone.
But I do love Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter. He's
great.
He's awesome in this. And I love the character design of that. And like Tweedledee and Tweedledum are fun, and the cat, he's pretty cool. What's his name?
I don't know.
I can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
It's
a cool cat.
Someone's going to get upset in the comments.
Unsubscribe.
Let's move on to Unsubscribed. In 2012, Tim Burton came out with Dark Shadows. And so I think this movie, again, not amazing, but I think it has great production elements, like the blend of practical with CGI here works really well, especially with things like Johnny Depp playing this vampire, and they digitally got rid of all of his blinking in the movie to make it show like he never blinks at all, which is really cool.
And I think they also refined his skin and got rid of any blemishes too, because he has pristine skin.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why we didn't include this in our vampire episode, because it ultimately isn't that amazing of a movie. It's funny. I just think that the tone of the film didn't quite work. Johnny Depp does his best. Eva Green's really funny, but the movie, like, there's like 30 minutes of Eva Green just trying to get Johnny Depp to sleep with her. It gets a little old. And I know that both Burton and Johnny Depp were really fans of the property when they were younger, which is why they wanted to make this movie. But I'm not sure that it really resonated with audiences in a powerful way at all.
I agree. In 2014, Tim Burton came out with Big Eyes, and this is a pretty damn good movie. And this is the least Tim Burton-esque Tim Burton movie. I think it's a nice change of pace. Amy Adams is sensational in this movie. So she plays this artist who became super famous for her beautiful paintings where she would put these big eyes on the characters. And then her husband, played by Christoph Waltz, basically steals her art and passes it off as his own. It's a crazy real story. And again, Amy Adams is awesome, and Christoph Waltz is always great as a villain. And there are some, fantastical Tim Burton whimsical moments in there, but for the most part, just straightforward film.
Yeah, there's plenty of courtroom scenes too, you know what I mean? This is a pretty traditional kind of film for Tim Burton to make, and he did a really good job. I think it's a fascinating story. Both actors are excellent. They did a great job with the cinematography. I mean, it's an incredible story that seems so unbelievably true, but you also feel so bad for this character who's in this marriage of a controlling man who, takes her work for his own, and he becomes world famous for it and extremely successful. And then, it's the battle between, people believing whether she painted them or he painted them. And it's an amazing story.
2016, he came up with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. This stars Eva Green, and who's like, you could say like now one of his new favorite muses, you could say.
Yeah, definitely.
I think this movie overall visually is great. And some more production elements are fantastic. Again, the guy knows how to direct a movie like every time. The acting's solid. The story is solid, but the script is pretty weak. A lot of the dialogue is not that great. I like the brightness and colorful aesthetic as opposed to his dark style. Creative cinematography. Overall, not that amazing of a movie.
This is like the Tim Burton version of X-Men. And Eva Green's character plays like Xavier.
Yeah.
She has the school of these students who have these amazing abilities. And it's a great setup Very intriguing idea. And Sam Jackson plays a pretty solid villain. He's pretty scary in this. It's nice to see him in a Tim Burton movie. I didn't expect to see him in it. But creatively, it's beautifully made, great production, cinematography, special effects. But again, I agree with you. The script is where it's really lacking. And I haven't read the book. I haven't read the novel, but it has to have been better than the screenplay was. So
Probably.
I think the writing is where the problem was.
And then 2019, the last film that Tim Burton released was Dumbo, in his recreation of the beloved cartoon character of the flying elephant, who is the main attraction of a carnival. And this movie, the CGI is actually really good of Dumbo.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But I think that some people are kind of scared of the Dumbo in this movie, but I think he's very cute. I think it's either you think he's scary or cute. I think he's adorable.
Well, yeah, it's that blend of, Tim Burton movies are always kind of scary, even the kids' movies. So, that's always been his repertoire.
Yeah. But this movie, again, same problem with his last few films. The script is just not that great, despite the fact that the production elements are fantastic. The cast in this movie is really good. We have basically like a Batman Returns reunion. We have Danny DeVito, Michael Keaton, Ava Green, obviously. So awesome.
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
Awesome cast. I think the child performers in this movie are really, really good. I think they might be the best part of the movie, besides the CGI of Dumbo. But overall, I think it was a little underwhelming for me personally.
Yeah, it's got excellent cinematography and production design. Like, all the carnival scenes are really beautiful, and the production is excellent. And I think it was a good adaptation. I think it's a tough story to sell nowadays, and I think they did a great job of translating that weird carnival style and vibe. That carnival
bro.
The carnival vibe. It's like, the traveling circus, it's very out of the ordinary. People are involved in those things. So I think combining that with Tim Burton style was a lot of fun. I think they did a great job with this film.
Yeah. And currently, like I said, he is filming Wednesday, which is a Netflix TV series.
I thought you meant he's filming on Wednesday.
of Wednesday Addams, of the Addams Family. And then it was announced that he will be doing Beetlejuice 2 with Michael Keaton. And who knows when that will start filming, maybe next year, hopefully.
The Keaton science is in full effect, man.
For real, man. That guy's career is just back.
Since Birdman.
Booming more than before, man.
Yeah.
He's got all of his big roles coming back. And besides directing, he's obviously produced a ton of great films. He produced Alice Looking Through the Looking Glass, let's see, music videos. He did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter 9, which is a film of a style that's based basically off his aesthetic. Overall, just one of the most exciting, intriguing, and unique directors of all time. And his films will be celebrated forever. And, I'm a huge fan of his movies and his work and his creativity. I always look forward to him coming out with like stop motion movies, and I'm always excited when he's making something new, but I can't wait for Beetlejuice too.
Yeah, he's one of the modern greats, and no one makes movies like Tim Burton does, and I'm always excited when a new one comes out. He has an amazing visual flair and style that nobody else has ever been able to duplicate or come close to, and he's one of a kind.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Raiders of the Lost Podcast, a director spotlight on Tim Burton. Be sure to become a patron at patreon.com/Raiders of the Lost Podcast because like I said, I put my 2 weeks in, so you're paying our bills now, everybody.
We need some money, please.
Thanks so much to everyone who already is a patron. Stay tuned for more Halloween spooky season stuff coming this month, and take care.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Find us on all audio streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find us. Find us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Raiders of the Lost Podcast. Be sure to check out one of these other videos right here for more content on our favorite films and breaking down all kinds of movie content. Thanks so much.